All right, so first, let's talk about the National Association of Realtors, or NAR, lawsuit settlement, and what's going on with that, how it impacts you as the consumer, as well as how it impacts real estate agents and brokers in the industry today. So first, I'm sure as many of you have seen in the news, there was a settlement that was reached from the National Association of Realtors from litigation that was brought forward on behalf of home sellers. And ultimately, what that lawsuit was saying that there had been some unethical practices in the real estate industry over the course of many years that was not being transparent to not just sellers, but buyers in the industry around how compensation works for buying and selling homes, and that that was resulting in excessive fees that were passed on primarily to home sellers, as well as to buyers in the market as well. So that court date is scheduled for mid-November, in which the NAR is expected to settle on that lawsuit. However, practice changes will go into effect starting August 17th across the entire real estate industry. So let's talk through what some of those changes mean to you as the consumer. So the first important thing to know is compensation. Previously, how compensation would work is you as the buyer would buy a home, and ultimately you would agree on a price with your agent and with the seller's agent, and what you pay for the price of your home is then ultimately paid out from the seller when the transaction and the deal closes. So you are not directly paying your agent as the buyer. You are buying the home, and then the seller was paying not only their agent that had the listing, but then they were also compensating the buyer's agent or your agent through commission. So what's changing is now in the future, buyers are going to be paying and compensating their agents directly if they choose to have representation. So that is a direct negotiation that is going to be happening between a buyer and their agent versus the agent for the buyer being paid from the seller. So that's one of the biggest changes. Now, that said, some people may say, hey, negotiation is, or compensation is now negotiable. Compensation has always been negotiable, whether it was on the buyer's behalf or the seller's behalf. Now the difference is how the agent is going to get paid. The agent is going to get paid directly from the buyer, not via the seller. So you can negotiate directly with your agent as you pursue buying a home. I would say that in the real estate industry, the standard is still going to stay at 3% that agents will be asking for in the industry. But there is room for negotiation, as there is in any real estate transaction. So just important fact for you to know. That's the first thing. The second thing is previously in the MLS or the multiple listing services, agents can communicate and share information via the multiple listing service website with one another. So buyer's agents could correspond directly with listing agents in that system. And it also signaled what compensation was being offered as a co-op percentage. So if a seller's agent had listed a home, they put it in the MLS website, that signals to the rest of the agents in the community that are looking on behalf of their buyers. And it would say listing agent, for example, 3%, co-op percentage, 3%, meaning the buyer's agent that brings a buyer to the table would be offered that compensation. That is being removed starting August 17th. So agents are not allowed to share compensation within the MLS system with one another. They will have to discuss what compensation terms look like via direct communication outside the MLS system. And that will be dependent on what the seller is willing to do in terms of bringing a buyer pool in for their community, or for their listing, I should say, as well as a buyer's agent and what they have negotiated on behalf of their client in terms of compensation. So that's the second biggest thing.